the next generation of video game consoles, with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, or whatever dumb name it has, just around the corner, this is a really good time to talk about the future of gaming. Video games have definitely come a long way from the time of Pong and Pac-Man to the modern day of huge expansive worlds and photorealistic graphics. It now seems like the possibilities for video games are endless. And that's why I want to take the time to talk about where I think gaming can end up in the coming future. There was a time right around when Nintendo came out with the Nintendo Wii where motion controls seemed like the next big thing in gaming. PlayStation grabbed it with the PlayStation Move, Xbox added it with the Kinect. It was everywhere. However, is it really the next big thing that they thought it was going to be? It's a fun gimmick, and it does add a lot to some games, but I don't see it being used the way they thought it would be used. It'll still always be a thing, in my opinion. I think games like ARMS or Splatoon will always find clever ways to use motion controls, but I think, like with the Nintendo Switch, it'll always be an option, but not the default that Nintendo expected it to be. Another big fad in gaming, one that's a little more modern, a little more current, that some people think is definitely the future of gaming, is VR. And I definitely think that VR is going to have its place. It'll continue to have its place, but I don't think it's quite going to be the main future of gaming like some people think that it will be. Half-Life Alyx seems like it's going to be a bit of a game changer, making a full VR story experience. But we'll have to see how that goes. Because as of right now, VR, even though it's been a lot of fun, has been a little limited. Sure, you can move around and look around and feel completely immersed in the game, but you can't quite walk around everywhere like you could in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I think with the way that VR is right now, there's only so much you can do with it. I would absolutely love if one day VR is exactly like the way it's portrayed in Ready Player One, but we're way too far from that, realistically. Plus, VR equipment is a lot of money. To spend another couple $100 after paying for a $400 or $500 console is a lot. And only for a few games, it's not really worth it yet. I just hope that these gaming companies somehow have the time and money to develop better VR technology while also making good games for nowadays. There's a VR gaming arcade in my city called Vivid VR Gaming, and it's like $15, I believe, to play unlimited VR games for an hour, and I really enjoy it. Like, we've always had bowling and mini golf and batting cages, and now we have escape rooms. I think going to a VR arcade, strapping in the helmet for $15 and playing Super Hot and VR dodgeball and some VR archery, shooting some orcs, I think that's what VR gaming will end up being if it remains the way that it is. I think it'll be a really fun date night or hang out with your friends for a night for a couple hours, and that's it. That way you're not paying for a couple $100 to play just a couple games. Plus, with VR, some people can't even really use it. Some people feel sick after playing VR games. Some people have certain physical limitations that prevent them from playing it. And I think that might be one of the drawbacks of VR. So I don't think it's going to be the main future for gaming. There are, however, a couple of things that I definitely think will happen in the world of gaming in the pretty near future, hopefully. One of the main things that I think will happen is the rise of crossplay. People being able to play video games on Xbox, PlayStation, PC, or Nintendo console, and all being able to play together. We've already started to head in that direction, so I definitely think that will grow, and we'll see more of that soon. Microsoft and Nintendo are already getting a little buddy-buddy, and I think PlayStation is going to join them soon. I think these big companies are noticing that people who have Nintendo or PlayStation or Xbox consoles all just want to be able to play with their friends. And the way that they can benefit from that and profit from that is just allowing them to be able to play with each other. That way, if someone has a PlayStation console, Xbox can make a game that PlayStation player might be able to get now. I think it'll lead to a win-win with the companies making more money and the players being able to play with their friends regardless of what console they happen to own. I can see a lot of potential for these big gaming companies working together outside of just crossplay. For instance, let's look at Smash Brothers. For Smash Ultimate, Banjo-Kazooie and King K. Rool, who are both currently owned by Rare, who's owned by Microsoft, are playable on a Nintendo console, on a Nintendo game. Even Minecraft, which is now owned by Microsoft, is available to be played on a Nintendo Switch. Crash Bandicoot was the biggest PlayStation mascot, even though he's now owned by Activision, but he's now playable in games on the Nintendo Switch. Same for Spyro the Dragon. That's huge. These PlayStation characters are now on Nintendo. If these major gaming companies keep working together like this, we're going to see the end of the console wars, and the winner is going to be everyone. People can play whatever games they want on whatever console. People can play with other players, regardless of what console each other owns. Heck, every character is going to make its way into Smash eventually at this point. I just think that the future of gaming lies in Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, and every other major gaming corporation working together. And like I said earlier, it's a win-win. These corporations are profiting, but we're also having a good time and getting what we want. What's the downside to that? The other big trend in gaming that is starting to rear its head that I think and hope will stick around for the future of gaming is bringing back old games and making them accessible nowadays. Previously, if a game came out on the Super Nintendo, you had to have a Super Nintendo to play it. And once that console went obsolete, it was too bad. That was the only way they could play it. And for this reason alone, people still have their Super Nintendo hooked up to their TV so they can play it when they want, because they don't want to get rid of those games. They don't want to lose that opportunity to play those games. But because of old consoles and old games going obsolete, people started emulating games and hacking games so that they could always be able to play it. And obviously, these companies that want to make money don't like that too much. So, at least lately, we've seen a lot of re-releases. We've seen the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. Crash Team Racing made a comeback. Spyro the Dragon's trilogy came back. On the Switch, you can now play, like 20 or 30 Super Nintendo games playable on Nintendo Switch. Video games like Destroy All Humans and Medieval also made a big comeback lately, re-releasing their games in HD. It seems as though, and I hope this is the case, that these major companies realize that people still want to play these old games, and they're going to keep making these games accessible, similar to how old movies keep getting re-released on DVD or Blu-ray or 4K or whatever's next. Companies are keeping them accessible. It's not like a movie like Ghostbusters came out one day and was on VHS, and once VHS became obsolete, it wasn't that was too bad, you can never watch Ghostbusters again. No, they just re-released it on DVD and then Blu-ray and 4K, and it's going to be re-released on whatever comes next. And I think that's what's happening with video games. Companies will find ways to re-release old games so that we will always have them. Future generations will be able to play the original Super Mario Brothers, the original Pac-Man, the original Pong, Donkey Kong, so on and so forth. And I'm very thankful for that. I couldn't imagine my childhood without Super Mario Brothers or Crash Bandicoot, so I'm happy that they're finding ways to bring them back so new generations can also experience those games. And whether they're HD remakes like Crash Bandicoot, or they just are the exact game that they once were back on the Super Nintendo being released digitally on the Switch, I think these games will remain playable, and I'm really excited for that. Plus, that way, people don't need to have 7 old consoles hooked up to one TV. They could have 1 or 2 and just have all of their video game needs in one place. They can play old games. They can play PlayStation games, Xbox games, Nintendo games, Steam games, anything else in one place. Overall, I think the future of gaming is just having all of your video game needs all in one place. I think we'll get to the point where we'll have a single console hooked up to your TV rather than 7 old obsolete consoles. We can just play all of the games. You can play old games, new games, games made by other companies. You can play games on this console with people using other consoles. It'll just be one single device for all your gaming needs. And I think that's definitely where gaming is leading to. I don't know if it's going to be anytime soon, but I think that'll be the next big step. I don't know if you think I'm crazy for assuming that. I just really hope that old games continue to be more accessible even after they're obsolete, and crossplay on multiple platforms continues to be a thing and even grows. I would love to see a Nintendo made game played on a PlayStation console or vice versa. I think we're getting there. We've already had Microsoft games on Nintendo. We're taking these steps and we're almost there. Plus, let's face it, in 10 years from now, graphics are going to be so realistic. They're going to look more real than me, than everything in this room around me. It's going to be crazy. Let me know where you think the world of gaming is heading, or if you're excited to have old games more accessible, or if you're excited for more cross-play experiences. And don't forget, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. It costs nothing to you. So why not? If you like my videos, subscribe and you'll always see more on your homepage. And don't forget to go to nonstopnerd.com for discussions about video games, movies, tabletop games, TV shows, comic books, all your nerdy needs.